Now it's time to listen to our president, Professor Maya Shankar Pandey sir, from Department of English, Banaras Hindu University. He has worked as head of the Department of English, Banaras Hindu University, and he has been invited to deliver keynote lectures in several seminars and conferences in very prestigious publications from publishing houses. Sir is holding. I will not take much time with just one line. I would like to invite sir that he is himself lucidity personified, and whatever he speaks, it just reaches to the heart of audience. So, most humbly, I invite Professor Maya Shankar Pandey sir for his presidential address.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Dhananjay Singh, Professor Jawaharlal Nehru University, Dr. Patricia Austin from Poland, Lucy Guest from UK, founder of Kashi Yoga Festival Varanasi. Welcome address by Dr. Satya Gopal ji, Sri Ajit Kumar Singh ji, and Indrajit Mishra ji, Dr. Mehma Singh ji, and all the distinguished dignitaries present here, the paper presenters, participants, teachers of DAB faculty, ladies and gentlemen, namaskar, good afternoon, adab, vanakkam. I heard the discourses of the learned scholars with care and interest. And I was wondering how the range of scholarship flourishing in this hall, discussing, critiquing, observing on cultural studies. And this discipline, this cultural studies paper is prescribed almost in all the universities. And you might be wondering that what is happening. The cultural studies that is used and taught in the universities and academia focuses on the several aspects of popular culture and media and culture. But what I find mainly here is a very solid perspective to study and to interrogate cultural studies. I have my own, these observations, but these are not complete. They are just possibilities, and interventions may take place. Professor Dhananjay Singh, the keynote speaker, gave a very insightful, very pertinent, these observations on cultural studies in terms of language, in terms of literature, media, and other issues. He highlighted the major aspects of cultural studies, but more importantly, he gave a kind of, the critique of cultural studies very prominently. And those are very meaningful observations on cultural studies. Those who analyze the text, those who study cultural studies, and the Western framework under which we analyze the cultural study artifacts and texts are to be again relooked into. I'm reminded of, this Derrida. Derrida's paper 1966 The conference was on structuralism. He presented his paper on, his paper that is, structure, sign, and play in the discourse of human sciences. What was the result? What happened? It was the conference on structuralism, but he talked about post-structuralism. He critiqued the idea of structure, sign, and play proposed by so many theorists like Saussure and others. I found something happening here. Why? Because I'm bringing into context that the foundation of language, literature, media, representation of cultural studies based on the Western model. If we talk about language of this part A, then we are reminded of two major theorists of the West. One is Saussure and another is Levi-Strauss. And remember how Professor Dhananjay Singh argued that how, word and meaning and the gap underlying there, and not understanding the basic ideas of consciousness and experiences that comes out of this. So how Saussure's idea of theory of language, that language is based on differences, meaning comes out of differences. We teach our students, and a kind of relationship between signifier and signified, and the meaning that comes out of differences. So in the Indian tradition, if you are analyzing a cultural text, then don't you think that it would be so superficial? Can media just articulate those intricate, very deep ideas, and consciousness can be expressed through media? I think it's not possible. He also highlighted several layers of language that is available in Indian tradition, and he's a great scholar of Indian knowledge system. I know him. And so insightfully, he just associated Indian way of learning and understanding cultural studies and the Western way of understanding cultural studies. So what is happening here is there are four parts of language: Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. In my understanding, I think that cultural studies is based on Vaikhari, the communication. Because media is well versed in communication, and the popular culture is based on that kind of communication. But that is the limitation of saying this. So where is Para, where is Pashyanti, where is Madhyama? They have no idea about this. Ma'am also talked about this. One thing that she brought into context Professor Dhananjay, Mandukya Upanishad, Bhartrihari, Panini, in terms of the analysis of language. And what he advised us that in order to study cultural studies and the artifacts and the text, then one should not follow this kind of Saussurean or Levi-Strauss approaches to this. Study it from the holistic point of view. So what he said, this Indrajit ji in the very beginning highlighted the major aspects of cultural studies, and he brought into context the ancestry and the history of cultural studies that began in the UK, in England, and the ancestry you can trace from the left ideology, that is Hogarth and Raymond Williams, Thomson. This is one ancestry. Another ancestry is the ancestry of structuralism. That goes to French structuralist Roland Barthes and Saussure mainly. I'd like to just remind you that if you want to study cultural studies, first read in the Western tradition, mythologies by Roland Barthes. What is there? It's a kind of a structuralist approach to cultural studies in mythologies, where Roland Barthes talks about the cultural artifacts like boxing and wrestling and their underlying rules and codes of this, bringing into context French wine, Einstein's mind, that inaugurated the birth of cultural studies, and with the idea that they rejected the binaries of high and low culture. So the elitist culture, and this kind of thing. I'm also reminded of T.S. Eliot's one book, Notes Towards Definition of Culture, and where culture is associated with religion and values, that Eliot said. It was a counter. The cultural studies, thinkers, they countered. They wanted to reject Eliot's elitist approach, that culture is not only related to this high culture, but to the low culture or subculture or popular culture or mass culture. That was the starting point emergence of this. And from that emergence, a lot of debate started. And the third major, contribution that comes from Stuart Hall and the Birmingham Study Circle, where a lot of things, lot of ideas came into existence, and the text that we consider, the canon of literature that we consider, now they were questioned. A big question were laid down against this. So what is cultural studies? What are the major themes? So cultural studies basically is the popular culture or mass culture, media culture, graffiti, mall, rap music, hip hop music. All these, things constitute the thematic concerns of the cultural studies. But the serious questions which were raised today here is that what is the outcome of this, if we analyze in terms of that? And another thing is that I would like to add here is that what are the tools of analysis of cultural text, this cultural studies text? And what kind of theory we would apply on that? To my mind, I think that cultural studies theory basically is based on eclectic method. You cannot just prescribe only one theoretical framework to analyze cultural studies. So there it's kind of eclectic one. Many more this polysemic kind of thing that what one can apply for. Otherwise, we can't do justice to the analysis of the cultural artifact text. So from different perspectives, because it's the point is that cultural studies is interdisciplinary and post-disciplinary. It's a new kind of knowledge, let me say, although I can't use knowledge in the Indian tradition framework, which Dhananjay ji and ma'am told us about this, that knowledge is something different. But yes, this is also kind of knowledge that we are accepting in that idea. And in that way, it's a new discipline. But cultural studies, so intervention is very serious. It intervenes into the high culture or the high literature or kind of canon. And the basis here, the basic idea that comes out from this is what I feel is postmodernist approach and postmodernist theory, where truth, there is no single truth. It reacts against grand narratives. So in that framework, the emergence of cultural studies comes out. I was talking about that I would like to add something to this, that when you analyze a text, cultural studies text, then what could be the tools? There is a term that comes in cultural studies is circuit of culture, and coined by Paul de Gay, Stuart Hall, Cohen, and so many. And under the circuit of culture, there are 4-5 major contents, elements of analyzing the text. First thing is the representation. What kind of representation is there in the cultural studies? Suppose television. So what does television know that, yes, what kind of representation is this? If it is television, then what kind of identity? The second, element of the cultural studies is identity. Here we have talked about identity from a different perspective, but here, the identity from the Vaikhari point of view, that what kind of identity comes out from media or from television. It may be elitist, it may be northeast, it may be, the women or rich or kind of saas, bahu, like this. So what kind of identity the media is giving? Another aspect that you can analyze from the cultural text is the consumerist point of view. What are you consuming? What is given to you? And another thing is that is the production. What kind of production the cultural studies or advertisement or media or television is giving to? I'm giving just one example of television and just analyze very briefly telling you. Another point that you can take into consideration to analyze the text is the agency. Agency. Who is behind this? Multinational corporations? Government controlled? What kind of this? So that is also looked into. Because there is the political intervention in most of the cultural artifacts. If it is multinational corporations, then what will happen? How to sell, how to consume, how to say that, yes, do pizza pe do pizza muft. If television is everywhere, like cultural studies everywhere, even anything can be a text, an advertisement, a graffiti, mall, Spider-Man. So, but the real question is that how superficial level we are analyzing language, literature, text, and theory. That was the concern of the keynote speaker and ma'am also, that where is critical thinking? Madam just mentioned one thing about this Gurukul system. I am reminded of that Gurukul, in the Gurukul system, a text is analyzed from the perspective of dialogic tradition, by vada, discussion. And in that kind of vada, truth comes out, satya comes out. But if if truths are many in the postmodernist concerns, then where is the truth? This is another question. And that is why what she mentioned, I think very seriously, that this Gurukul system study or learning, that refers to, I'm reminded of one Upanishad other than Mandukya, and this is Prashnopanishad. Prashnopanishad, in that there are 6 questions. Guru is Pipalad, and he just, students ask questions, Guruji, dharma kya hai, ye kya hai, niti kya hai. 6 questions were there. And how those 6 valid questions were answered, experienced through vada, through questions. And in the questions, autonomy of the learner and autonomy of the teacher intact. That was the tradition. But here, and in that tradition, Upanishadic tradition also, as the scholar like Professor Dhananjay Singh, he told us that the Vani, the speech, something silent, something not understood. So those elements are understood in this Upanishadic Vada tradition. So as Indian scholars, I think if you analyze the cultural studies text, so study language critically. and the text, analysis of the text is also from the Indian perspective. This is what, I think DAVs will be known for this, that how the critique of cultural studies is being established here in DAV. He also mentioned post-truth. Remember, 2-3 years ago or 4 years ago, 4-5 years ago, DAV organized a seminar on post-truth. Professor Dhananjay ji, what you said, DAV discussed post-truth ideology also, and now cultural studies. So I think a huge round of applause to DAV and the organizers for this, that they have organized a conference, international conference on cultural studies. One thing that, that is the question from my side, and I would like to hope from you that during the deliberations and discussions from different papers about cultural studies, that is, what is the future of cultural studies? Will cultural studies swallow up literature? Or it might enlighten and improve the quality of literature? Or it would be only the part of the market? These are the three very vital questions that, that has arisen to my mind. That if this is the pace of cultural studies, then what about great literature, classics, or the way of writing? In my understanding, when I read these days the text, so I found that great writers of fiction, novels, they are now writing about serial killers, motorbike gangs. Look at this. You might be wondering that, is it fiction? Is it novel? They are writing about this. Or, many more French writers, they are writing about fat. Americans are also writing about fat. Or the Shakespeare scholars, they are not writing about Shakespeare, they are writing about soap operas. Milton scholar, they are writing about Madonna, not of Milton. What is this? What is happening? I think in my understanding, this is cultural studies. Now you have to think that what is happening in this contemporary world, from Shakespeare to soap opera, from Milton to Madonna, and from wrestling, and from this gossiping, such kind of literature. I'm not giving value judgment to this. It is up to you. But folk is very prominent in Indian, system, literary system and knowledge system. So we can learn something more from folk. And I hope that this DAV college, after this seminar, please publish the papers of the scholars and give a new light, a new way, a new path to the analysis of cultural studies. This is from my side, but I'm really very happy to be associated with this international conference, and I just thank the organizers to invite me for this presidential address. I don't know is it a kind of presidential address or not, but I'm also a consumerist of knowledge. So I'll place here in the domain of cultural studies that I'm also a kind of consumer of knowledge, and such kind of knowledge that is flourishing so naturally, so honestly. So all the the scholars who have presented, talked about on cultural studies, unke liye sadhuwad. I express my compliments and thanks to them who talked about this in such a confident manner, and in a very natural way, that they have shown the path, and they have critiqued, observed, and give us a line of thinking on some of the major issues of cultural studies. Otherwise, it should not be a kind of fashion. Let there be serious discussion on cultural studies. So, thank you so much. Namaskar. God bless you.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking presidential address.